Today I wanted to talk to you about how to create your own sweet potato plants, and also at the end of this video I've got a short update about the tomato cuttings I planted for those that watched the earlier video where we planted tomatoes. So a few days ago, when it was raining rather heavily, I planted the last two of these sweet potato plants into this bed. Now you'll see the nice roots on there, really ready to go. I've opened up, this is where I grew my straw bale potatoes, Irish potatoes, and I have just opened a hole, put some compost in, and I'm going to just dig in that and put these plants in, and they will hardly notice that they have been planted at all, and they'll take off really nicely. So I thought it better to come back on a day when there was less rain and less background noise and talk to you about how to create these sweet potato plants yourself. Now if you live in a warmer climate, sweet potatoes will grow all year, and it's fairly simple to go to a vine and cut some cuttings, put them in, and they will root quite readily. But in a cooler climate like we have in Tasmania here and other parts of the world, the sweet potatoes will not last through the winter, and the only way you can actually keep them is as a tuber. Sweet potato tubers don't voluntarily shoot like a Irish potato will. Irish potatoes just grow whether you like it or not. Sweet potatoes need the right conditions in order to grow. Now of course you can go to a nursery and you can buy these plants, but the price of these plants is becoming rather high. Here in Tasmania you can pay between $5 and $7 for one of these plants. Now given that sweet potatoes here in Tassie are a marginal crop, it's really questionable whether you're actually going to get sufficient return from that plant to actually justify that price. So to create your own, what you need to do is to turn a sweet potato tuber into this. Now you can do that a couple of ways. One is to put the tuber into a jar or a glass of water, half submerged, top out, bottom in the water, and over a period of 2 to 3 weeks, if it is sufficiently warm, you'll need to say put it in a windowsill or somewhere like that, it will begin to grow roots and grow shoots like this. My preference, however, is to actually put it into some potting mix and keep that damp, and that will work just as well. With the potting mix you know that it's getting more nutritional support. But whichever way you choose, there is one trick to the process that I have found, and that is that a sweet potato has a top and a bottom. When I say a top and a bottom, what I mean is that one end was connected to the vine, the other end the root came from. They like to grow the same way. If you put them in upside down so that the vine end is in the ground or underwater and the root end is out, they generally won't grow at all. What I have observed is when you put them in water this way, tiny shoots will form, but they won't go any further until you turn it up the correct way. So if you're putting them in potting mix and you don't actually know which way is up and which is down, you really have to put in several, because it's like flipping a coin and you're not sure which one's going to grow. If you put it in water, you then have a little bit more observation. The ones that come away quickly are obviously the right ways up. The others you could flip over and see if they go better. Once you actually get these shoots coming off, what you do is to break those little shoots off at the base. So I'll try one of these. These are probably the smallest you want to go. A little bit bigger is better. I've taken most of these off already to create these plants. Strip off the base leaf, and again you could put it in water and wait for it to root and then plant it out, or you could do what I have done, and that's to put it in some moist potting mix and wait until you see the roots coming through the bottom, and then they're ready to actually go into the ground. So this way you're creating your sweet potato plants for free, and you don't have to make up ground in the same way as if you went and bought them. Now, growing sweet potato plants in a cool climate like Tassie, there's a couple of ways you can do it. I do it here in my greenhouse where it's really hot, it's like tropical conditions, and they grow really well. If you're on the coast, people often are able to grow them outside and do okay because it's warmer and less inclined to frost. They have a longer frost-free period on the coast. The other method that can be used is to put black plastic down and to grow them through the black plastic, because that will actually warm the soil. But whichever way, have a go. They're really fun to actually be able to produce this plant in our climate and get something a little bit different for winter. Now, this is just a short update for those of you that watched the video where I planted the tomatoes this year. You will recall that I put 2 tomatoes in, these 2 from cutting, and I mentioned that this particular one was looking like it would fail. It was very wilted. Now, it's really hard to believe that this is the same plant because it's absolutely thriving now. It looked like it was going to die for probably 7 to 10 days, and I didn't pull it out because while it was very wilted, it didn't start to dry, and so it was obviously still gaining moisture. After that time, it started to pick up and very quickly began to grow. So basically the lesson is, don't give up on your tomato cuttings too soon. Even though they may look very sad, they can still take off and produce a successful plant. Now, as for the rest of these tomatoes, they're all thriving, all growing really well with the warm weather we're getting, so we look forward to a good crop.